Hi everyone, Jay here from Jade Productions, back with another video, and today we're talking about new Age of Sigmar 3.0 rules, and we are once again joined by Harukajunko. Say hi, Haruka.
Hi!
So we are once again discussing this latest preview of articles straight from Games Workshop, present on their news site. You can all go read it now. We're just going to be taking a quick delve into it, talking about it a little bit, what we think, and general impressions, and about how this might affect the game. Overall, I think it's pretty good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems pretty interesting, at least. As that one thing we'll talk about later.
Yeah, so let's start with... So all of these things are straight out of the new core rulebook, as we said, and they are basically addendum. They're kind of like triumphs. They're attachments onto the main core of the game with extra abilities. Now, the first one we begin with is the heroic actions. This was the one I was most dubious on in our previous video. I seem to recall being very much in the park against these, thinking that they were going to be something along the lines of like 9th edition 40k actions. I am pleased to see that they are nothing like them. So, these heroic actions, they're another thing you can do in the hero phase. I guess the hero phase is now very heroic. And essentially, when we look at these, so a unit with the hero keyword on its war scroll is a hero. Thank you for that definition. At the start of the hero phase, you can carry out one heroic action from the table below with one friendly hero. So, you only get to do one of these, if I'm reading that right. Both you and your opponent, though, both get to do one of these per player's hero phase. So, start of the round, it's your hero phase. If you're going first, you get to do one of these, and so does your opponent. I can probably say now, your opponent's probably almost always going to be doing one of three that I can immediately see. And you will
Yeah, with
probably
the
be
first
doing one
one,
of a different three.
yeah, to be honest, out of the heroic ones that I can see, it's either going to be leadership or willpower. I think are going to be the ones that are going to be most used.
Pretty much. I mean, you only get to do one.
Yeah,
So, like I'm reading that right. You can carry out one heroic action from the table below with one friendly hero. So you only get one. And if you only get one, I think if you're going first, you're probably going to use heroic recovery or their finest hour if you're in a position to already be attacking. If you're not in a position where something is wounded or you're about to kill something, you're always just going to use heroic leadership. Just always, if you're going first. If you're going second, and it's your opponent's hero phase... Sorry, let me word this better. If it's your hero phase, you're probably going to use one of those two, or heroic leadership. If it's not your hero phase, then you're probably going to use heroic willpower or heroic leadership. Or if you don't want
yeah,
something to die, you're going to risk it on that heroic recovery. But heroic leadership, you're right. I think heroic leadership and heroic willpower are where it's at.
because heroic leadership's really great if your general is dead.
Yeah, and even without your general being dead, it's still a 50-50 chance to get an extra command point. An extra command point can be worth that risk every time, especially since this is free, and what are you giving up? Nothing really. I mean, each of these abilities is great, don't get me wrong. I like each of these. I like each of them. I think they're all good, but they're all highly circumstantial tools in your pocket if you need them. And unlike the monster abilities that we're going to look at in a little bit, I think you're always going to be using at least one of these per hero phase.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, they do have to be done at the start of the hero phase, so a bit of order of operations there. So, if you try and heroic recovery something, you're going to regain those wounds, and then you're still gonna get hit by spells. You can't wait until you've been hit by a bunch of spells, taken a bunch of damage from said spells, and then try and heroic recovery, unfortunately. So, you have to already use heroic recovery on something that has been wounded in the previous round, unfortunately. Otherwise, it'd be pretty good, but I like heroic recovery. The rolling the 2d6, if the roll is less than the hero's bravery, you get d3 wounds. If the roll is equal to the hero's bravery characteristic, you can heal 1 wound. If it's greater, you get nothing. Poor destruction armies.
Yeah, like, what's the average bravery of, like, a hero unit for either bravery or not bravery, destruction or order?
I want to say for order, it's an average of 8. In death, your average bravery is 10. In chaos, your average bravery, I think the other 3 Grand Alliances are an average of 7 to 8. I know destruction tends to be a little bit lower. I don't have any of my destruction battle tomes on me, so I will just have to go and grab my War Scrolls from the Age of Sigmar War Scroll app. But your average is about 7 to 8. I know the Seraphon unmodified, most of my heroes are 8. Most things, unless they're undead, are 8 tends to be the high side. Most things tend to be pretty low after that. But I'm gonna try and find the lowest one I can find, and I know where I'm gonna look for it. I'm gonna look straight at the Gloomspite Gits. What is the bravery of a fungoid cave shaman? Bravery of 4. You were... Okay. Bravery of a goblin loon boss. Bravery of 5. Okay. So like I said, circumstantial. These things aren't going to help out every army.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're playing, I'm looking at the Gloomspite stuff now. In fact, it's been a while since I've looked at them. But suffice to say, hey, look, if you're playing Gloomspite, I can tell you right now, only 2 of these are useful to you, and you will use those 2 every time. And that is heroic leadership and heroic willpower.
Yeah, if you want to, you could like take their finest hour, but I'm gonna be honest, from all of the stuff, from the couple of games that I've seen with mini wargaming playing them, hero units usually already have 2/2, so adding a +1 to it really doesn't do anything.
So,
Like to save
a lot of these
for
things, so the last 2, their finest hour and heroic recovery, they're more useful on monster heroes. Which, for those people who are curious and not willing to sit around for the end of this video, this stuff does affect heroes with the monster keyword as well. So, zombie lords on... vampire lords on zombie dragons, ghoul kings on terrorgeists, Seraphon on anything. Anyone who's a hero and a monster can use both of these. And on those, their finest hour is great. But a lot of heroes are 3s and 3s, 4s and 3s, 3s and 2s, 2s and 3s. It really, again, they're a nice tool, but they're not always going to be useful. The heroic recovery, I think, is probably the least useful on a regular hero. A hero monster, on the other hand, where you've got 10 wounds and you're banking for that trying to stay alive. Sure, that's worth it. I'm not sure... But that's where your call is going to have to come in. Is that worth it compared to, I'd really like another command point?
Like, you're getting a free command point, which, from what I understand, yeah, like, that seems just objectively better.
Yeah, like, on a 4-up, I gain a command point. Like, my Slan do that by default, so, like, it, it's good for armies that don't have a lot of command point generation, and those that do have a lot of command point generation typically need their command points just to make their army work. So it's a strong thing, because command points are very, very powerful. You normally don't get many of them, and they're increasing the amount that you get, and the abilities that they power tend to be anywhere between okay to I must have this on at all times. So, again, yeah, I like these. They're strong. Heroic leadership's probably just the best one, and it's got this weird thing about you get 2 to it if your general has been slain, just to, if you're in a bad spot, to try and help you bounce back, which I think is nice. None of these are game breaking. All of these are pretty nice. All of these are useful in some way. And it was one of those things I actually discussed with T before I started recording today, when he had a look at these. He was concerned that this is a whole bunch of extra shit he has to memorize. But this is it. There's just 4 of them. It's just these 4.
Yeah.
And you only get 1 per hero phase. It's really not that much to memorize. It's not that much of a bolt-on to the core rules, really.
But, these are really kind of just nice things overall. Like,
yeah,
but,
I don't see anything broken, and I don't see anything bad.
And just to confirm that these, don't require hero points, which is definitely, it'll at least spice up the flow a little bit. At least until everyone starts just picking heroic leadership and heroic willpower.
Yeah. There is the chance that they might add more into new battle tomes. I didn't see them discuss that directly, but that's always a possibility. They don't cost any command points, which is just fantastic. But even if it was just these 4, I can see certain armies really, really using the different ones. Like, I know for, like, I'm going to use the Seraphon as another example. I already generate a lot of command points. I will probably use Heroic Leadership if my Slan gets slain, because he's my CP battery. But until he gets slain, I'm probably going to be using their Finest Hour, because I have a lot of heroes on mounts that hit really hard, and I'd like them to hit and wound, thank you. And Heroic Recovery, because I have a lot of monsters, and they're typically not used to living too often, and every little wound hurts them.
Yeah. But some other things that are coming with this, though.
Yeah, the more command points.
Yeah, we're getting more command points. So everyone on the first turn receives 1 command point, and the player takes second turn receives 2 command points, which we talked about a little bit before. Like, that just keeps giving more incentive to go second, because not many armies want to go first.
Yeah, the armies that want to go first are the ones that, like, if you lose the roll off and you're going, if you win the roll off and you decide to go first, it's because you have one of 3 things that you desperately require. 1, you need to get your command points and your spells off to form some synergies, because your army will collapse without it. 2, there are crucial objectives that are within reach that you need to take quickly in order to start racking up points because of the scenario. Or 3, you have a really fast Alpha Strike army. Now, not every army is going to meet all of those conditions. Most armies, and as you know, those first 2 are highly circumstantial. The Alpha Strike armies are pretty limited, but they are there. They are very powerful on their first turn. But going second is always more beneficial, I've always found, practically. Because then, if you're going second, you can deploy defensively to counter those Alpha Strike armies. You get the chance to put up all your stuff. If you've deployed properly, going second is not a detriment. You're simply in a good position to go. And then there's the double turn where you get to go again if you can win that roll off. So going second has always been a huge thing, because you can set up for either your potential double turn or for your opponent's next turn. I don't feel like there needed to be more incentive, but this does patch a problem where if you did get alpha striked, or things went badly on the first turn of the game when your opponent goes first, or the first turn of a round even, because now command points are given out at the start of the round. You're not stuck without any command points and the ability to go, oh, I don't generate any until it's actually my turn to go, therefore I used all my command points, therefore I can't insane bravery inspire my horde of guys that I desperately need to not run off that objective to stay there. So, useful. But it's not something I'm gonna harp on about. I'm against additional command points, but at the same time, it patches a problem.
It's only one more point.
Yeah. Look, so long as we're not reaching 40k levels where everyone's splashing around 12 command points, using them to re-roll just about everything before doing some stupid synergy that blows off half your army, then sure, fine, whatever. So long as Age of Sigmar never has the stupid one command point to re-roll any dice roll, I'm fucking fine.
Yeah. But they also changed up the way that you can use command points now.
Yes. Now this is kind of as we know it. The only really two big changes that really need to be talked about is the first dot point and the last dot point, because these change the game. Kind of a lot. I would say a lot. The totems, not so much, but totems typically were already important, but now your totems are typically banners, and they were already important for those who had them. So, now they're better.
That's always good.
We're going back in time, boys. Everyone get your banners and huddle around it.
Are we sure Are we sure this wasn't just a clever ploy and that the next book to release is actually going to be like a surprise Bretonians one?
Oh god, I would hope so.
I mean, then again, why would you want to be the French?
Nope, you're not gonna drag this out of me. Not on stream. So, but the most important one is that unit champions can issue commands to their own units. Now, units don't have their own command abilities, in all honesty. They might update some certain war scrolls, that might be kind of cool. But they don't need their own exclusive ones. But this now lets them issue the basic generic ones to themselves, which, you know, there's the reroll ones to hit, there's the reroll ones to hit in shooting. Sure, whatever. Those are cool-ish. The most important one will always be Insane Bravery, we don't run away. You leave your unit champion to last, he issues the command ability on himself in the Battle Shock phase. That important unit that was going to run away stays where it is. Because a lot of armies go out of their way to circumvent Battle Shock through their army special rules. And this is because Battle Shock is strong. And a bad Battle Shock can really lose you the game. Like, having units run is really bad. So, now you don't have to babysit them as much. It doesn't change how you were running your armies and how you were maneuvering, positioning a super amount. But now it means you can send units off without having to have a hero nearby and being caught out with a, oh no, I don't have a hero nearby, that unit's just going to run away now. Now it's a case of, that unit, I'm positioning further away, so now I know they're not going to be able to benefit from this guy's command ability, which was fine, I wasn't going to use this hero's command ability. But they can still use the generic ones, so long as I have my champion there to say, okay, it stays. And this also gives a bunch of leverage to certain abilities which pick off and kill specific models. So now, every one of those abilities that is like, okay, pick up that one specific model in a unit and squish them, or stuff them in the giant's bag, or blow their head off. Yeah, well, now everyone's going to be gunning for your unit champions. So instead of always having them at the front where they get their extra attacks, there's a little bit, you'll have to be a little bit more careful with how you use them. Not a bad thing. Not a good thing, but not a bad thing. And then that's really it. So it brings us now to the Monstrous Rampages. The rules that I was the least concerned about and the most excited to actually kind of read.
Mm-hmm. So the monstrous rampages are more or less just heroic moves for anything with the monster tag, from what I understand. Uh,
Pretty
there is also the
much.
exception that you can actually do more than one of these, but you can't do the same one in the same phase.
Yes, they do confirm that as well in the text. So if you have more than 4 monsters, you'll have to be strategic about which one of your vast horde you send on a monstrous rampage, as you can only carry out each ability once per phase. And you do these at the end of the charge phase.
Yeah, which, and we've
Now,
already started talking about them. Two of them you're going to regularly use. One of them you'll occasionally use, and then the fourth one, it's nice and fluffy.
yeah, like you're in terms of like as I said, T was like, "Oh, yay, more stuff to memorize for the game." And like, "Yeah, you only need to remember 2 of these. You only need to
Yeah,
remember 2."
and those two are Roar and Stomp. Roar is you pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the model, you roll a die, and on a 3 plus, that unit can't issue or receive commands in the following combat phase, which I don't know how effective that is, but it sounds powerful since you can just put it on a hero or something, or like to counter that one
So it cannot
the idea you
issue
were talking
or it
about
cannot
before.
receive. So either way, whether or not you're targeting the unit or the hero, you're fucking something over. So if you're targeting the hero, you're probably screwing over the army at large, but you've got to be within 3 inches of the hero. If you're not within 3 inches of the hero, you can at least screw over their combat picks and their effectiveness in combat by picking the unit. I think a good example of this to put into context is, alright, we could reach that vampire. Now, that vampire has a command ability that gives +1 attacks to any of its undead summonable units within X amount of range of it. So it could use that. It's not going to use that on itself. It can't. But it's going to use that to either give those basic skeletons 3 attacks, or it's going to use it on the Graveguard to give them 4 attacks or 3 attacks with their better weapons. So it's a case of we're gonna roar, and on a 3-up, if we're within range of the Vampire Lord, we shut down either of those units from getting +1 attack, therefore saving us a lot of potential damage. Or at the very least, if we've only been able to get into contact and charge one of those, we can at least shut one of them down from getting that buff to force the opponent's hand. So this one, Roar, is extremely tactical. I really like it the more I think on it. Even though it's not the immediate one my brain goes to of, yep, I'm gonna use it every time. Instead, my brain immediately goes to Stomp, but...
Yeah, which Stomp, it's you pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the model. As long as it's not a monster, it will die. On a 2 plus, it suffers G3 mortal wounds. It's basically a free extra attack from what I see.
It's pretty much it. And it's like one of those things of monsters have notoriously suffered from 2 problems in Age of Sigmar. They die really fast, and they tend not to deal a lot of damage for their points cost. And there's certain monsters that this does not apply to, like Flesh Eater Courts, Terrorgeists, obviously, big giants. There are certain units, certain monsters deal a lot of damage, but there are also some monsters that don't deal a lot of damage because of reasons. So this is just free extra damage on anything that's not a monster. And if you are fighting a monster, well, there's a different one for that. So
Yeah, we got a Titanic Duel for that one, which is pick an enemy monster within 3 inches of the model, and you get +1 to hit rolls on the attack made against that monster.
nice. There's
It,
not a lot to
it's
say on
it's a
it.
bonus to hit.
Which, monsters love because a lot of them hit on 4s for a lot of their really good attacks. So it's like, nice, great, thank you. The thing is, when I read this, I immediately went to Total Warhammer and the monster on monster duel animations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I could imagine. Is like, this is really cool. I'm probably never going to use it, but it gives me more incentive to actually attack enemy monsters with my own monsters.
Yeah, though I still don't see you actually getting to that, if only because, and I was kind of thinking of this, most of the time your monsters just kind of get bogged, from what I've seen with maybe wargaming, most of the time the monsters and stuff just get bogged down.
Yeah, the key to using monsters is to attack the flanks. You never send them straight into the middle of a horde. It's not like Total Warhammer at all on the tabletop where you send them straight into a horde and they die. You send monsters after very specific targets according to the monster's strengths. So you attack from the flanks where the opponent can kind of get as few attacks back into you as they can. You don't go after big hordes of like 15 plus models. You go after units of 10 or units of 3. You go after monstrous infantry, things with small model count and like that. They do their best work on the flanks and going after specific enemies. A lot of monsters are like ballistic missiles that you just fire and you pray they hit their target and kill it before they die.
Yeah,
So
it's probably useful, and it probably will see use.
it will considering again the limitations that they've put on this, that you can only use ones. Like, okay, I have a Seraphon army that actually runs exactly 4 monsters, so I can use exactly one of each of these. All 4 monsters are probably never going to be in combat, but at the same time, great, awesome. Like, I have options now to increase the effectiveness of units that were majority-wise subpar. So now they're doing that little bit extra to contribute to how much they typically cost. And the really cool thing is, like heroic actions, each player gets to do one of these.
Yeah, they're free, which is nice.
They're free, you both get to do it, so it's more of the tactical of, ooh, do I roar or do I stomp?
Yeah, because even if you have all 4 monsters, really you're only running 2 of these abilities.
Pretty much, unless you're like, the first 2 are universal. I think the more I think about it, roar is stronger than stomp because of the ability to shut down command abilities is super strong. But at the same time, stomp.
Yeah, and finally we get to the last one, which is Smashed Rubble, which is you pick one faction terrain feature or defensible terrain feature within 3 inches of the model and roll a dice. On a 3+, the terrain feature is demolished if it was defensible, and the scenery rules on that war scroll cannot be used for the rest of the battle if it was a faction terrain feature. We basically both agreed this is basically never going to come up.
Yeah, you have charged either a garrison, and you've decided, yeah, sure, I'm going to demolish the garrison, or you've found yourself at the end of your charge phase, realistically at the end of your movement phase, having run within 3 inches of a piece of terrain and gone, boop, knock it over. Like,
Yeah, like, I see this more being, I don't like that piece of terrain. I'm going to remove it from the board.
you're not even removing it from the board, you're just taking away any rules it has, so...
Oh, so never mind. There's even less use. We should.
Pretty much.
I was thinking that you could like just walk up to a piece of terrain and be like, "I don't like this. It slows me down." Just slap, and just no. Now it's gone. You can't slow you down.
I'd
like,
probably do that in a narrative game, where it would be hilariously fun. In fact, I'd know if I ran a narrative campaign as a games master, which I haven't done any for Age of Sigmar yet. I've only done 40k narrative campaigns, which people can see on the channel. Like, I would make this a full mechanic of, oh yes, rocks, block your way, brave dwarves. Use your magma droths to knock them over.
No. You see, I'd use Smashed Rubble to get rid of like craters and stuff, and just have my monsters like repaving the road.
Your entire objective for this mission is to get to the other side of the board and knock down that tree. That tree called your ancestors gay once.
Yeah, no. I you know what? I wouldn't even knock it down. I'd knock down all the trees around it and leave it alone.
But
and then call it a day.
tactically, Smash to Rubble, is useful if you can get near something worth taking out, because realistically wise, because of how terrain is currently set up, there are certain terrain pieces, particularly faction terrain, that if you can get near it, sure, you're going to use Smash to Rubble. Other ones, it's kind of like it's not worth going out of your way to do. And the key things in my mind that spring to, alright, so immediate targets for Smash to Rubble. Things that are worth negating. Alright, the Flesh Eater Court's Charnel Throne. That thing gives them a free summon, essentially. That's cool, but they're always using that first turn, so no way in hell are you reaching that. No way in hell. It is surrounded by an army of ghouls. No.
Did talk about it could be useful to get rid of Skaven stuff.
Yeah, Skaven Gnaw-holes. You can get rid of the one in your backline. Seraphon Pyramids, if you really want to be a dick, because of how the Seraphon Pyramid works. Basically, if you win the roll-off, or depending on how deployment goes, you can literally say, yeah, no, you don't get to have that in your deployment zone, or no, that goes in the middle of the board, because that thing is set up before anything else is decided. Really weirdly, it's got a weird deployment zone, which means a lot of the time you've got like a 50-50 chance of actually getting to use it in a game if you're playing the Lizardman. And if that happens, you can simply go, hey, I know you've got this cool piece of terrain, and I know you really got screwed over with deployment, and it's now sitting here in the middle of the board where you can't do anything with it unless you run out and garrison it. Well, I'm just going to say no, it loses any of its effects, so there's no point now.
Look, now you don't have to waste your time trying to get to it.
If you can reach the Gloomspite, shrine, you can knock that over. The elf one, it boosts their magic. If you can get to it, one of those things of, yeah, sure, fuck them elves. Fuck their magic. They have enough of that shit. So, it's fun, it's fluffy, I like it. I love all of these for improving monsters. This was the stuff I was most excited to see. And again, this is it. Both of you get to use it, and it's used at the end of the charge phase, but you don't have to have charged. So if you have been charged, at the end of the charge phase, you can screw over an opponent by roaring at them and going, no. You don't get to stack a bunch of buffs and kill my monster, hopefully. Well, or if they charge you, it's almost the equivalent of, like, Overwatch. Cool, my monster gets to stomp you as you come in. Try and dodge my feats.
Yeah, well, don't threaten them with a good time, but, to be honest, the roar one, I don't see that one being as useful on the defensive side. Mostly
I kind of do.
Mostly because it is at the end of the charge. It's at the end of the charge phase, which at the charge phase, like at the end of it, they've already attacked, haven't they?
No, that so the charge phase is just the charges, the moving into them. Then we go into the fight phase. So you get to do all of this before they fight. Like, I know it's kind of weird. It probably should be, like, at the start of the fight phase.
Yeah.
But it's at the end of the charge phase. Little weird choice on that, but I'm sure there's a few interactions that I can understand why that would happen. Because there's a few abilities and things that force things to act at the end of the fight phase. So, I imagine that's done to prevent any weird interactions.
A question here, because this is actually going to kind of affect my opinion on it. When it says receive commands in the following combat phase, is that on the same, is that after the end of the charge phase, or is that, like, the next turn's combat phase?
No, so that there is in the following combat phase, that is, because these are done at the end of every charge phase, so that's immediately charge phase, end of charge phase, roar, fight phase. That unit in the fight phase that gets to attack doesn't get to be affected by any command abilities.
Okay.
Next turn, whoever's turn it is, same thing, hero phase, movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase, end of charge phase, roar again, fight phase. That unit doesn't get to use command abilities that round. Or that phase. This is why I think Roar is very powerful, because both players, like, you get to use this every combat or every charge phase, regardless of whose turn it is. So when they talk about less downtime for the fact that you can't literally do what you do in some 40k games and literally, yeah, your opponent's turn, okay, you have 400 guardsmen to move, I'm gonna go get a beer and a pizza. Like in some games, in some Age of Sigmar games too, you can literally just walk away from the table and let your opponent carry out his turn while you go do something else. This, you actually have to stick around and be like, oh, yeah, gonna roll there. More attention is required.
I mean, I guess that's good. It does seem, when you kind of explain it like that, it seems tacked on, but it's at least something.
All of these rules are tacked on. Like, Age of Sigmar didn't need any of this. And it is tacked on, but it's not bad.
But, yeah, no, I mean, all these rules do seem interesting, at least. And while I may not actually play Age of Sigmar anytime soon, at least it sounds better to collect than 40k.
It's because I talk real shit about 40k right now.
I mean,
I'll see you all in 10th edition, everyone. I'll see you all in 10th edition or when everyone has a codex.
I mean, it sounds more like you're going to be waiting until 12th edition at this rate for a good set of rules.
I could say that about every edition. Every time there's an edition change, there's always the chance that people are going to be fucked over, and it depends on how radically the edition changes. This is kind of going to spill off into rant right now, as I rant for the next few minutes about edition changes. But this is the end of the video, everyone. This is all I'm going to talk about, these rules for now. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. I'm Jay from Jay Productions. This has been Harukajunko.
I'm sorry, save yourself, everyone. I'll hold them off.
But when it comes to edition changes, you have good edition changes and you have bad edition changes, and they come down to two factors: how an edition is handled and how radical the changes of the edition are. So, in the case of 1.0 Age of Sigmar to 2.0 Age of Sigmar, same core rules, nothing was changed. The edition change was handled well, because they started writing the books for Age of Sigmar 2.0 at least 3 battle tomes before it was dropped. And those books, while they were not as powerful and effective as the edition went on, because they were written early in the rules cycle, they were still strong and somewhat competitive until the end of 2.0, where we are right now. In fact, one of them has only just been replaced / supplanted. The Daughters of Cain were only just recently updated at the end of 2.0 here, and before that, they were one of the strongest armies in all of Age of Sigmar, and they received one of the earliest 2.0 books. So that's a good edition change handle, because there wasn't much radically changed, and what was radically changed was all handled inside the books, thoroughly planned out, and started being accounted for early in the process. The 9th edition has had terrible timing, been handled poorly, introduced a bunch of strange new things into it, and has involved not only a thorough rewrite of more tacking on to the core rules and tightening them. There's not a problem with the core rules of 40k, with how they've updated them. The problem is the update that they've created has created this very obvious divide between new books and old books. The new books very clearly work on a different set of principles when it comes to game design and balance. And that's not something that they can really account for in the transition. So now you have books coming out in terrible timing, not fast enough, simply because of COVID and unspecified things and problems with shipping, which slows down the release order of things. Yeah, sure, that's a problem. No one can be blamed for that, especially not Games Workshop. Just shit happens. But at the same time, you have half the edition working off new rules that are focused not around throwing sheer amounts of dice and stratagems flying everywhere and all your abilities being tied into things and always using that one command point ability and then always fielding that and throwing as many dice as you can and spamming this and spamming that and building into these specific obscure things with multiple detachments everywhere, while the rest of the armies, the newer ones, are built off a slower, more calculated 40k with less damage output, less dice, less super obvious command point usage, and a more generalized, balanced, but overly gamey sort of system with an emphasis on objectives and close combat and timing. So it is one of those things. So that has been poorly handled in my regards. And they've introduced new keywords, which those keywords, then, you know, you have some armies who are now heavily restricted by these keywords. And you end up with this transition of, okay, Space Marines haven't really changed at all. Their main transitional thing with these new keywords, this core keyword, is that they went from having everything that they had reroll everything all the time, so they pretty much never fucking missed, to now most of their army never misses. Not much of a change, really, because they're still bringing the same things, because almost everything they have is core. But then you have units like the Adeptus Mechanicus who could just come out, and you have things of, why the hell are Cataphrons not core when they're supposed to be a spammable troops choice? They're not core, so they can no longer re-roll for any additional accuracy or damage buff. So your solution was to lower their points cost, but now they're just effectively and decidedly worse, because now I'm no longer hitting on 4-ups with re-rolls. On average, if my opponent is in cover, I'm hitting on 5-ups with no re-rolls. And less shots. Like, there's your attempt to balance creates an imbalance amongst armies and factions. Now that has to deal with, and while that might be balanced in a microcosm of new books, then you just have one of the older books just fucking come along and throw 60 dice at you a turn with a bullshit maneuver and badly designed units. So you've gone from a badly designed, bloated edition to a tighter, but more constrained edition, and the transition between them doesn't work. End of rant.
I was gonna say, I think we're getting kind of close, and I mean, you've already scared the people away, old man who screams at a new thing.
Look, every editions change in Warhammer. You go with it and you don't. Sometimes an edition will fuck you particularly bad, and you'll just have to go, alright, I'm just gonna sit out. Sometimes an edition will be so bad where it's just like, alright, you were fine in the beginning, like 8th edition. You were fine and fun in the beginning, you were nice. Okay, these Primaris guys are getting way too many dice. Oh my god, there are so many stratagems. Oh my god, why do I have to have 3 books to play my army? To, okay, I have 1 book. All my units got worse. Everyone else is slowly gumming down to my level. Okay, but until they get down to my level, I can't really play.
Well,
they're playing a different 40k still.
Who knows? Maybe everyone will get knocked out and suck.
Well, that is the trend of 9th edition, and it's sucked from a perspective of the 8th edition stuff was just so fucking ridiculous in its design, whereas 9th edition is a bit more tame and reserved. Is going, okay, we know we went overboard. Let's calm down now. The problem is, they've calmed down. Certain armies. the rest of the armies are still whooping out there, firing their fucking machine guns in the air like it's 4th of July. So, yeah, there are good edition changes, there are bad edition changes. Sometimes it's not worth playing an edition until the edition change has rolled in full. Like, 9th edition is just currently not worth playing for me. And it's not worth playing for T and a lot of other people. That might change in the future as more stuff comes. Still, have I brained you enough? Do you feel like not living anymore, Haruka?
No, because I'll be honest, I started you on this rant, and I immediately started looking at other things just to let you go.
You son of... You did this, damn you. Alright. Alright, everyone, this is the end of the video. I'll see you all next time.
Hey, guys.